What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Andrew Morgan's, Marknology.com. You could check them out. And Drew, before I formally introduce you, I always like to point out other episodes of the podcast people should check out. Since this is part of the Top Agency series, a really good one, you'll appreciate this one. I had Adi Clevitt on. She's an agency. What she does is done for you SOPs. She goes into companies and she helps them map out and streamline their process by documenting SOPs. It could be streamlining their client onboarding, their staff onboarding, and a variety of other things. We geeked out on our favorite productivity tools, software tools on that episode. That was a really good one. Another really good one was Kevin Hurrigan. Kevin Hurrigan had an agency started in 1995. So it was really interesting to hear the evolution of business, the internet, and agency life, and still running a thriving agency, Spinia Tech. And then obviously we have to mention Matt DeCourcy, who I just realized you guys are buddies. And that was a great episode as well. Another Kansas City-based founder, CEO at Full Scale. So people can check that out. And Sweet Process is another good one. I don't know if you've heard of Sweet Process, Drew, but it's a software that you can use to house all of your SOPs, so it makes it searchable. And I had the founder on. We use Sweet Process. We actually love it, and our team can find anything they want by just searching inside of the platform. And so people can check that out. Again, we're going to talk about streamlining processes on this episode. And this is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. How do we do that? We do that by helping you run your podcast. We're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the strategy, the accountability, and the full execution. So, Drew, we call ourselves the magic elves that run in the background and make it look easy for the host so they can create amazing content, create amazing relationships, most importantly, run their business. You know, for me, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I have found no better way over the past decade than profiling the people and companies I most admire and sharing with the world what they're working on. So if you thought about podcasting, you should. You have questions, go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. And thank you to B. Jamshidi. He started CGM Marketing. We are talking today because B introduced us. You can check him out at CGM Marketing. He's a matchmaker for marketing agencies and companies. And he basically makes that perfect match. So, and he's vetted, I don't know, thousands of marketing agencies and hundreds of partners over different marketing niches. So check that out. And I am super excited to introduce Andrew Morgans. He's been helping brands scale on Amazon for over 15 years. He's the founder of Marknology, which is a marketplace agency that has worked with brands from all over the world to help them navigate the complexity of selling on Amazon. He actually has 8 of his own D2C brands and has helped over 15 brands achieve a successful exit on Amazon. Drew, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me. That was amazing. Shout out to B, shout out to DeCourcy. And I'll have to take a listen to some of those episodes as well. Have definitely had an expert helping me in the business in the last couple of years, getting my SOPs and my process in line. So a very unique skill and something that a lot of us creatives need help with. So, it sounds amazing and it sounds like I'm in good company.
100%. And I'm going to pull up your website. So if you're listening to the audio, there's a video part. And Drew, I'm going to have you just start off and talk about Marknology and what you do. And we may get to it, folks. That he may tell us why and how he was kidnapped at one point, but we'll maybe save that till later on. So start us off with Marknology.
Yeah, get him with the cliffhanger. I like that.
Exactly. It's a crazy story, so they're gonna have to wait to find out what happened when you get kidnapped.
Started Marknology, I guess we're going on 11 years now, 2013. I'd been in the Amazon e-commerce space for a couple of years, from a startup to an e-commerce manager. And if you do the math, or if you know anything about this industry, like that's at the very beginning of the industry. And I just started freelancing while I was an e-commerce manager. The startup blew up on Amazon. Then I moved to an e-commerce manager, and that toy brand was blowing up. And I was like, wow, I think I'm onto something. I didn't even know what the word entrepreneur meant at the time. I'm just a hustler, and I had a degree in computer science, so was kind of pursuing that path, and just found e-commerce and fell in love, and the rest is history. I mean, honestly, I was just sitting inside a small, medium-sized retailer, seeing all the problems and hurdles that they had to go through, from mainly conversations. You talked about relationships, and it was my job as e-commerce manager at a company like that. That was a very successful toy catalog company at the time, and trying to transition into e-commerce. It was about relationships inside the company, whether or not we were going to be successful. It was, there was the head of the customer service, there was the head of accounting and bookkeeping and AR, there was the buyers, there was the brand managers, there was the design team and the head of design, there was my CMO and my COO or CTO, whatever. He was a hybrid kind of position. There's a CEO. I had the other guys in the technology team, and I'm saying all that to say, inside a company, there's real people and there's real departments and there's real challenges to overcome. And it's not just about, it was never about just getting that Amazon seller with the private label brand to say like, hey, Andrew, like help me launch a brand on Amazon. Like I want to quit my 9 to 5. I think I always had it in my mind that I wanted to help brands like this toy company, like at a different level than that Amazon seller. Even though the Amazon sellers were really the ones pioneering the space at the beginning, I was kind of looking ahead and saying, hey, if this company needed my help and this company needed my help, and I already know what kind of conversations they're having behind closed doors, I think I can really help a lot of brands. And so I really set up Marknology to solve for all of those things that you need. And over the years, gained expertise in each of those areas. So we help brands get launched. We help them get profitable. We help them scale. We help them train their teams. We help them build processes for their e-commerce department, their marketplace department. We are known in the space for our content on Amazon, and helping brands really develop the content that they already have most times for D2C or different things like that, and helping them. There's just nuance to each of these marketplaces that we're talking about, specifically Amazon, where you're instead of like having a journey, a lot of times like you get one shot with the customer on your product page. And so how do you conveying your story, your branding, all of that? How are you ranking in the algorithms? How are you getting good reviews? What's your post-purchase like? If you're transitioning from a 1P relationship to 3P, how do you do that? I think we're one of the more experienced teams in the space. We're here in the Midwest, so a little bit quieter than maybe some of the shops on the coast. But we've worked with brands probably 400 since we started, if I had to guess, and brands as small as mom and pops to Fortune 50 companies that we would know, biggest food brands in the world, stuff like that. So I'm going to stop there, Jeremy, because that's a lot. But like, how did we get started? It really just started trying to solve a need. And, I was just really passionate. I love that I could make a little change and see a sale within 10 or 15 minutes. And that's what really hooked me.
Yeah, talk about, starting the agent, because you could have kept working for these brands. I mean, sure, you were in high demand. You could have worked for an individual company and really helped blow it up. But I think you saw something helping multiple, and I don't know, even starting your own on Amazon. What kind of was the initial, okay, I should just make this into my own company and serve lots of brands?
Okay, so there was a moment, like I know some people say it just kind of happens. For me, there was a moment. It was a couple of things. One, at the company I was at, I had hit every goal that they had set and then some, crushing it. And I got like a 20-cent raise. And it just kind of broke my heart. Like they had promised me training, conferences, like different stuff like that. If I was going to be taking a low salary, like I at least was hoping to gain experience and knowledge, and they just weren't delivering on either side. So when I got a 20-cent raise, which if you do the math is like $800 a year, and it was 400 up front and 400 if we hit the black that year or something. So it was like nothing. It was really like 20, like nothing. And I just was like, this isn't going to help me. I was also going through a divorce at the time. Hopefully not too TMI for the show, but I was going through a divorce, and I was heartbroken at the time.
How young were you at the time?
I was so one, I'm a missionary kid, okay. And we had been together for 4 years, but I was 25, 25. Um, and just kind of hit rock bottom. And what I did have was my job and success at my job. I was kind of crushing it. And so it really was like a source of a way to deal with what I was going through, was really to just focus on work and where I was getting some positivity and the community at my work. And I just leaned into that. And I was like, anything I'm trying to do, even if I've been, I've worked at a warehouse, I've been a security guard at a casino, going through college, I've done a bunch of different things. Whatever I'm doing, I'm trying to be the best. Like, I'm trying to do it with excellence. And that's just who I am as a person. I know it's one thing to say it, but that's just who I am. It doesn't matter what the job is. Like, I'm going to try to optimize it and do it the best way I can. And e-commerce has like unlimited amounts of optimization that you can do. So it's like, it's a job never done, which is also a perfect kind of job for someone like me. And so some of the reason was that the company I was at was not letting me implement or try all the things in e-commerce that I wanted to try. So
what kind of things did you want to try?
I was like doing simple stuff like negotiating the look back period on like a retargeting agency that my company was using. And it was like they had them in like a 14-day look back, and it should have been like 3. And they were getting credit for all of those sales. And I like negotiated that. And it was like a huge deal, really, like several $100,000 difference from the 27-day difference in the holidays around toys. And that kind of stuff just excited me. Like, wow, like someone has to be paying attention. This is like, no one was showing me the ropes. No one was showing me, no one went to school for e-commerce or any of that. But I was excited about it. Another thing was like content and images. I was doing a little freelance project on the side and started working with Adidas. And I was helping them build some content pages on Amazon on the side. I mean for like pennies at the time, really. And but they had amazing content from photo shoots that Adidas did at a big scale, and I was able to add those images and that content to their listings because they were also a vendor central seller at the time. And I saw the difference. Like immediately, the advertising improved drastically. Immediately, the conversion rate on the pages changed drastically. No one at the time was adding images or lifestyle images or really trying to do anything on Amazon.
We'll take a look at some of these as you're talking about, because
they were like, let's just do giveaways. Giveaways alone will like launch the products and reviews. And they weren't wrong, but it was like, I knew what good marketing and branding and content should do. And I had this taste with Adidas, and I was like, I want to do that on our listings. I want to add keywords. No one was talking about SEO on these platforms. Like, that's how early it was. Literally, no one was thinking that the keywords in your product description, your titles, your bullet points mattered. Little things that I just couldn't get buy-in from, honestly, like with leadership, to try and do. Those are just a couple examples. It was like the team was too busy with catalog or whatever. Like, let's just use the white background photo we have. I'm like, no, we really need to lean into this. So it was like, one, just really kind of being insulted a little bit with the raise and being kind of like, false promises. The other one was, I really just wanted to be the best in e-commerce. And I felt like there's some people outside of this company that are willing to try these things with me in this freelance capacity, but like within my company, they're not. So I really just wanted to try that. And but my first move was not to be a business owner. I started applying at other jobs in the area, and there was actually I'm not going to name them here, but they're like a financial services company that had an e-commerce department here in Kansas City that's very well known. Like, my dad would have been proud of me if I worked there, type of, like, that's how I felt at the time. And I was like, after going through kind of this low point I was in, I was like, if I got a job there, like the family, everyone's going to look at me and be proud. And but I had started, like, I had my day job, and I had started freelancing on the side a little bit and getting a little income from the freelance. And I basically was going to these interviews, and let's say I was making like 43,000 at the time. E-commerce managers make so much more now, right? But it was like early, guys. I'm telling you, like, this was, very few companies had an e-commerce manager. So 43K in Kansas City, lower market, but I was supposed to be learning and growing and all this stuff. So I went and applied at this other job I just mentioned, and they were offering me like 80K. Okay, so almost double. which is like pretty significant at the time. And it came with the prestige, the clout. But I walked in there and it was just so stuffy. It was just so stuffy. And there was a part of me that was just like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I don't think I just don't want to be in this environment. I don't want to go back to suits. I want to be such a baller that I can wear whatever I want. I can have tattoos and like, it doesn't matter. I wanted to be able to be seen just for that. And then the other one was a sports store. Um, and it was very close to the same salary but a better environment, and it was like they're at Rally House, they sell like clothing, sports stuff everywhere, and I love sports, especially at the time before I was doing my own entrepreneurial thing. And as an e-commerce manager, you'd sit there, you'd probably watch like the Sweet 16, the Final Four, and then you're making deals go on the website with whoever wins and sending out emails. Wow, Missouri Tigers won, like, get your hoodies. Um, but they had like the new the new CMO or CTO that had just done Crocs, and they had a new infrastructure on their website, and there was going to be a lot of proving to do there. I felt like a lot to learn, a lot to prove, and this little like baby I was starting over here with my freelance. I knew that if I went in there and had to prove myself there, like this would suffer. And I said all that to say there was just this catalyst moment for me, because I had been building this business kind of on the side for a year or so, trying to just like pay off bills and debt. And I just said, I'm going to go in on me. I'm going to just bet on me and this thing I'm doing on the side to be bigger than double my salary here. And it was, $500 a month at a time for a client, or $800 a month for a client at a time. It wasn't like it is today. And yeah, I just went all in. I can remember like it was yesterday.
Thanks for sharing that journey. It's really interesting from a mental standpoint, if anyone's gone through it. You have this kind of what appears to be stability, right? As you know, and when I know, it's not real stability because you
Yeah.
could get let go or whatever. But it's like, okay, I can
I
make
was a
80K.
hero at the first place. Yeah,
I
I
can
was
make
crushing.
80K. I can go in. I don't have to hustle as much. I mean, you still have to like do work and hustle, but it's a different type of hustle in my mind, at least from my experience. And you took a risk, right? It's a risk. You could have been like, okay, I have a more secure, quote unquote, position. So I'm curious on the services. So you are freelancing, you start your own company. Let's talk about the evolution of the services that you
Okay.
offer and what are you offering in the beginning, and then walk me through several of the other things because I obviously you expanded those services over the years.
Yeah, so it was just quite a different, the industry didn't exist. I really do feel like I'm one of the original founders of kind of the services in the Amazon space, whether people knew it or not. There just wasn't a YouTube channel out there to watch. There was nothing doing it. And a lot of people that start agencies like worked maybe as an account manager or a sales rep at an agency and then go off and start their own. That wasn't the case with me. I didn't really have agency background. I didn't have entrepreneurial background either, other than my dad being a missionary and going into some uncharted countries. I didn't really have that background either. So I wasn't coming in from an advertising or an agency background. I really just started creating a business to serve the problems that I was coming across before I even really knew what the framework looked like. I was finding jobs on Upwork and Elance, and then Upwork swallowed Elance. And when they did that, I shot to the top 10 in the marketing category on Upwork because they like combined the reviews there. And it wasn't that I was even half as smart as I am now, and I get more dumb every day. But it was that like I just was in the right spot, the right time there, and no one else was doing Amazon or marketplaces on these freelancer sites, much less someone that was in the U.S. So I just got a couple of jobs, started getting reviews, and I
I
just
want to
started
point
climbing
something
them.
out real quick, Drew, on that, because I know people even in the past few years that have agencies and people think, oh, you get inexpensive work on Upwork, but there's a lot of companies that go there and they hire US based people for large retainers. And I know someone who's, probably doing monthly recurring over $100,000 from the clients that they got on Upwork. And this is fairly recent, right? This is not, we're not talking 10 years ago. So I just want to point that out. It still happens today.
Well, just to shout that out, and I'm not sponsored by Upwork, but I should be if they're listening to this because I'm one of your golden boy stories. I really feel like that, at least in my life, because just like I mean, it changed my family's life. It's changed everything, and it really started with Upwork. I read a blog that said like check this site out, and I went there and really just started leaning into it. But I had someone reach out. It's been 10 years since I worked with them on Upwork. They're an agency as well in retail, like traditional retail. And they just reached out over the last couple of months, and we're working on something really big right now about bringing back a couple of uh, house brands that you would know that went bankrupt that are we're going to bring them back through e-commerce and Amazon and revive them, bring them back to life. I'm super excited about that because it's just something that's kind of like nostalgic brands, and that is a connection from 10 years ago on Upwork. So it's still relevant today. And if we ever get super slow, I'm on there just kind of seeing what's out there, just seeing what's out there. So um, back to like kind of like
The
what I
services
started
piece,
with
yeah.
was I was just solving problems I seen on Upwork one by one. And along the way, someone was saying, I need help with a flat file. I need help with images. I need help with writing SEO descriptions. I need help with taking this 10,000 part catalog and putting it up on Amazon. I need, concatenating descriptions. And I was the one that I clean up for now at the time. But I was just taking jobs like that. And slowly as I would tell them I know how to do 3 out of 4 things you're asking for. I'll do the 3 and figure out the 4th as long as you're okay with me figuring out the 4th. Like, but I got to figure it out. And slowly you just do that long enough. You do that for a year of weekends, and you've acquired quite a few skills that you didn't have before. And, matching those with what I was kind of doing in the 9 to 5, I really just started getting kind of, a tool belt to go to, so to speak. And there was advertising came out slowly after. So I was helping brands with advertising on Amazon. I was helping them launch products for the first time, helping them do giveaways and get reviews and kind of think about those kinds of things, doing end of month reports and profitability analysis and, helping them get their shipments into FBA and managing that. At the time, I wasn't working with sophisticated brands and like brands that understand how all those things work. I was working with entrepreneurs, people that wanted to leave their 9 to 5, people that were trying to source in China and or wholesale product. It was a completely different environment then. It wasn't like my 9 to 5. It was really like the Tim Ferrisses of the world, people with that mindset, people reading those books, trying to do that thing. And so I really just started solving all those different areas. And what that transitioned into is like I am that founder that's done almost every role. And I just realized that there's a whole lot that goes into marketplace management. You need a sales copywriter, you need a technical copywriter, you need a data analyst, you need a media buyer, you need a brand protection team that's thinking about those types of things. You need someone that can go with case management with Amazon, talking to them, communicating with them the way they need to be communicated. You need someone that's techie that can integrate all your different softwares. You need someone that's taking control of inventory and demand forecasting and supply chain. The list goes on. And most companies have 1 or 2 people, maybe an intern, trying to solve for all of those things. Much less come up with strategy and be cutting edge on all of it. They're doing their best just to keep up. So we really built an agency that kind of bolts alongside that maybe that leader inside that company and then tries to help them solve for all those things.
I want to talk about the team, right? Obviously, it's just you, and then you grow a team around it. But just to piggyback a little bit on the services piece, then you're kind of doing whatever people need. Now there's kind of like a set process, right? And we're looking at the Marknology effect where it's the Amazon audit and store creation, then identifying research, then the listing optimization, then Ignite, then branded Amazon advertising, then data tracking, revise, and manage and repeat. So you figure this out, but then you kind of have a set process, and then there's things along the way, right? When we're talking about each pieces of those, there could be, content creation with that, brand identity with that, and just management with that. So obviously you bring on team members throughout. Talk about what was the first key hire for you?
Man, Jeremy, That's memory lane for me. It was actually my brand manager at the toy company left that company and joined me as a partner. So I was about a year in, and she said, "I want to join you." I went. I've bought her out since then. We still have a good relationship. She wanted to keep more of like a consultancy, and I wanted to build something big. So, a
Yeah,
couple years
different goals.
I bought her, and yes, sir. But it was actually my oldest sister, Veronica. She has a master's in engineering and was in school at the time. As you see, CMO there. Always been big sis to me. She actually moved from Tampa after she finished her master's degree and came and was employee number one with me and just believed in what I was doing and wanted to help her little bro, I guess, at the same time. No one believed in what we were doing. No one understood what we were doing at the time. It was, even down to the way that I explain things, I'd really just try to simplify them for people to understand that it's some crazy complexity in some regards, but really it's just we're trying to do the thing that everyone's done: branding, storytelling, and getting in front of people in the right way. And it's just it was before the industry came along, before the pandemic sped things up and things like that. Online, the big brands of the world, they just weren't focused on the Amazon industry, so it was my sisters early on. After that, it was Brooklyn. She came up, took a job. She saw what me and sis were doing and kind of wanted to have a part of it, and she was working a 9 to 5 and just helping us on the side as we started to grow. And then my cousin Ro here is the core team is family.
This is a true family business right here.
Yeah, this is true family business, and some of it is because we come from the bottom in a lot of ways. But yet we were the generation of the family really trying to go out there. We were the first to get college degrees. The 5 of us here, actually, that just happened to be in a line, we were the first to get college degrees in our families, and over the years have just come together. So Ro was in financial sector, but was an amazing photographer at the time. So I think for 2 years she just helped us with images, content, social media, took no money, not a dime. And Brooklyn was working part-time as well until we could, afford to bring her on board. So it's something I'm actually very proud of. I think for a while I was intimidated about telling people about the family business. But now I just don't care. I don't know. I think it's a stigma maybe about family, but not everybody's been through a war together or grew up in some of those environments like we have. And I'm just blessed. My sisters are honestly geniuses. Brooklyn is an actual genius. The other redhead there. So our youngest sister is an actual genius and was so lucky to have her join us. She has equestrian science degrees and was working with champion horses in Ocala, Florida for a long time before she came to join us. And just like you can't beat family, like going through the hurdles of entrepreneurships, the ups and downs. And they came in and sat next to me and just watched what I did. I think between the 3 of us on the left, we have about 65, 70,000 hours on Amazon. So
I remember you saying at one point in a video, Drew, that when at one point you were just convincing people they need to be on Amazon and then hire you, and now people realize they know they need to be on Amazon, they should hire you, and kind of the evolution of that. It's probably similar when we talk about websites, like at the beginning, like, why do I need a website? And it's like, oh, and then people realize, yes, I definitely need a website. And now it's another hurdle you have to get, less hurdle you have to get over, right?
Yeah.
So selling is different.
I was one of the only ones educating people on the opportunity that was Amazon, and there were some gurus selling courses and different things like that, software founders, but there weren't really service-based agencies, and it wasn't like now. So in 2019 is how fast it's growing. In 2019, exponentially, I was added to the Amazon advertising partnership program. And there were 60 agencies at the time that qualified like professional enough to be included in this group. I was one of 2 of that 60 that were not software companies. So there was 2 service-based companies in that 60 that were advertising agencies. Now there's over 300. 5 years later. So that's the evolution that is the space, and if I've been doing this 10 years, it makes sense. Like the last 5 have been growing at a much faster rate. And the only benefit is we just got 5 years on a lot of people. But that's really and now it's okay. Everyone knows they need to be on Amazon. Now, what do they need to be doing there? Who should they be working with? What should the strategy that they be thinking doing? Those kinds of things.
Yeah. And, we'll talk about, there was a case study when we talk about going on Amazon, right? We'll talk about one case study that's 0 to 55 million in a
Yes, in
short
two
period of
years.
time.
2 years.
Before we get to that, you've mentioned war a few times and missionary a few times. So I do want to let people in to, I don't know if you want to start with getting kidnapped or where you want to start
Yeah.
that story. Because it
I
is,
was
you have a unique upbringing. Let's put it
I
like
always
that.
thought that if I was going to tell people they need to be telling their story as a brand, as founders, as owners, like because that's what people care about. People want to work with people. I need to be doing it myself. And so I just took that to heart and put my story out there for people to understand who they're working with, with our company and why we care and the people behind the company, not just just not just button clickers. But I was born in Montreal. My parents were learning French to be missionaries to Africa at the time. And guys, this is before the internet and cell phones and social media and all this kind of stuff. So, less ways of doing things. And by the time I was, 3 days old, I was on a plane, I think, back to Kansas City. And then within a couple of months, we were off to West Africa, Cameroon. My parents were always teaching English. In French countries, teaching English in French countries with Christian curriculum, basically teaching at schools, and then doing a little bit of extra. There's schools they worked for.
Why did they go to West Africa?
So West Africa, West Cameroon, part of the country is French. Okay, so there's like a half is an English side and half is a French side. So that was why we went there, and then we had a little bit of time in Moscow and Botswana, a year in each, filling in at schools there. And then we went to Congo. They were always trying to be in a French speaking country. My parents are fluent in French. And so we went to Congo, Zaire, Congo, the big one.
What was it
And
like there?
it was post the Rwandan post the Rwandan war, that actually was still going on at the time. And those losing armies ran into Congo, if you kind of like know anything about that turmoil there. And we went to Kinshasa, the capital city. It's 12 million people for people that don't know. And it's not vertical, it's a horizontal city of 12 million. So it goes wide, and the Congo River is the second largest river in the world next to the Amazon. So just a really populous place. And it was in war. It was in civil war. There was an assassination on the president while we were there. Rebels took the city. Before that, just like in our first 6 months of being there, me and my dad got kidnapped and released. They realized we didn't have money, and they had a preacher, and they are pretty superstitious there. And I think that might have had something
How
to
long
do.
were you captured? Like, how long did they hold you for?
It was a day. It was me and my dad used to go on like a walk, kind of just exploring, kind of like in different directions around wherever we were staying. And we went walking one day and walked by a police station with some idle officers there. And a couple of blocks later, they picked us up in a car, and that was rare. For one, for them to just have petrol.
Was it like a gunpoint situation? Like how did
Yes, it
this?
was a gunpoint. They kind of just they had handguns, which is also rare because they always carry much larger guns there. But these officers had handguns, and just put guns to our head and put us in the back seat of the car. There was two of them, and they drove us outside the city to an abandoned warehouse. And when I say outside of the city, that might have taken a couple hours because of the roads and the
Are you
well.
thinking I'm not gonna live? I mean, what's going through your head at the time?
I was really just watching my dad. And my dad, he's arguing in French. They're speaking so fast at that time that I can understand French, but it was like fast, and he was really arguing to not give up our passport. They had taken like our money and our phone, and he refused to give them our passports. And so they were arguing, and I could just tell that he was stressed. And my dad is a very calm man. And so I couldn't really tell what was going on. Mind you, I grew up in Africa. So while we're being kidnapped at the time, I've been in a lot of sticky situations. before that, like checkpoints and different things going on, right? There's a time in Moscow where the airport burned down, and yet there's nothing of it in the news. But I can remember being in that airport when it was burning down, just different situations. So I'm saying I wasn't panicking at the time. I was probably 12 or 13. I'm in the back seat with dad, kind of hearing him. My dad is a very smart
Yeah.
man.
If you were like a tourist and you were there for the first time,
Yeah, I'm just saying
you
it
would
was
have
a
been
little different because
freaking out way
it's
more than
almost
you
like
were. But
that
obviously,
chaos is turned me into a good entrepreneur, because I think that I didn't really realize it, but like what was normal for me growing up there is not normal for everyone else, And they basically took us to this industrial facility outside the city, an abandoned, facility, kind of like the West Bottoms here in Kansas City. And we sat outside, and they'd come talk to us, come back, talk to us, come back. We weren't handcuffed or tied up, but we were definitely, they had guns, and they told us to sit there. Right. So, and it got dark, and then they came, this was an all day thing from morning till night. And they came up to us and then just like let us go. And I've never really shared this, but like, my dad broke down pretty much, and I'd never seen him break down before. So I'm like, now I knew how serious it was. He wasn't telling me much. I think he was trying to figure it out. And he thinks that they spared us because of me having me with him,
really,
kind of thing. And but we had no money.
you
We
weren't
had no
freaking out
funds.
that much at the time. You're looking at your dad and you're like, he
It wasn't
seems,
my job to freak out. It's my job to not get us in more trouble. Like, you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like I knew enough.
How old were you at the
I
time?
was probably 13,
Yeah.
probably 13. And the next part was honestly some of the scary part too, because now it's dark in Africa.
Yeah, and you're several hours from, I don't know. I mean, what do you have
We're
to do?
past the
Walk
soldiers.
home or something?
We're past the cops, but we're not out of danger yet, And so petrol was extremely expensive. Like you would stand in line with your car for 2 days to get gas at a time of war, and we had no money. And so we had to come across a taxi driver or a person that we could convince to take us to our place, and we would pay when we got there, not pay ahead, which is like unheard of. Like, you know, but we finally met someone after walking for a while that decided to take us. I guess they felt sorry for us, and the rest is history.
That's true. Wild.
So, um, these are things that like when you're able to tap into them and not just avoid them, they can be like true superpowers. Like, I really do feel like if you can turn some of this, our situations, like divorce or, something being afraid like that. I have tattoos that talk about fear. And if you're a religious person, the Bible has a lot of scriptures about fear that I recant as well. Just because I think, overcoming them is the true feeling the fear and doing it anyway, having courage in the sight of fear, just like saying no to that job with the 100% salary increase and saying no, I'm afraid, but I'm going to bet on me this time. And the part of that was that I had nothing to lose. I was already embarrassed kind of in front of the family. In my mind, like, I think they love me through everything, but I felt like ashamed and embarrassed and lost my wife and was just figuring things out. And I was like, what else do I have to lose? Like, let's just, they can't make matters worse. Let's go all in. And I encourage anyone, like if that's helpful for anyone, of just like, stuff happens. But it's just about, getting your reasons together and being able to bet on yourself, and then my sisters at the time bet on me a couple years later and continued to bet on me and helped us get here.
Drew, thanks for sharing that. It's really eye-opening, and I think at least for me, it puts things in perspective, right? We live in this world that we're used to, and at least most people in my circle haven't lived in Africa and been kidnapped and things like that. So it definitely puts things in perspective. And I could spend the next 2 hours hearing your missionary stories. But I do want to hear about the 0 to 55 million.
Yeah. Okay. So in the last couple of minutes we have here, I was talking, you asked me to just think of a couple of, success stories. And I like to think of ones that are like current or recent and not just like referencing ones that are almost like past and done. And I speak around the world on different things, Amazon, trying to tell people where I think the industry's going and what the best brands in the world are focusing on. And so I'm always trying to come up with there's so much to talk about in regards to fear. Honestly, we're talking about entrepreneurship, but I could talk about, oh, TikTok might get shut down and Amazon's raising fees and China's encroaching on all of our products. And like, I could hit all these areas that have truth in them as well. Or I can focus on brands that are winning and success stories and where we're finding opportunities and ways that we're winning and all of that. So I generally try to keep something that's current, not something from the past, and something that's relevant. That's where this one comes in. For anyone that knows the Amazon space, there's kind of two ways of selling on Amazon. One is selling to Amazon direct, and one is selling like yourself. They call it 1P and 3P. So almost like they call it the retail team, and you're selling at wholesale prices. If you're doing the 3P approach, because Amazon hasn't approached you to sell your products, what happened was a lot of brands weren't ready. They didn't have e-commerce managers. They didn't have infrastructure internally to be able to solve for Amazon. So these other companies popped up similar to mine that were like, we'll do all things, we'll do everything for you on Amazon. But they weren't teaching the teams. They weren't doing it for the brands themselves. They weren't educating the brands. It was more so just like Amazon's buying product from you wholesale, we will too, or we'll even take it on consignment. And we will have a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year deal with you where we will run your brand on Amazon. People call them brand direct deals. People call these resellers, any number of things. For a lot of different reasons, there's problems. But as the industry, as the brands have gotten, the industry's matured, and now these brands are hiring e-commerce managers and digital marketing experts and actually getting some true expertise in their companies. Those leaders are now getting into the company, looking at how things are done, seeing that they're outsourcing a lot of their content and data and everything to these outsourced partners. There's flaws in that, and saying, we need to bring this in-house. Well, that's a big undertaking if you've already got $1 million or $2 million in sales going through one of these partners, these channels. So how do you transition that to in-house? Like meaning like where you're running the advertising and you know what keywords are bringing in your sales, and you know what zip codes your sales are going to, and you're getting the chance to do post-purchase follow-up by inserts in your boxes, and you're able to bring them in under warranties and subscribe emails, and you're able to talk to your customers, and you're able to launch new collections ahead of time and be prepared instead of them only focusing on the 80-20, all these reasons. But how do you do that without losing 2 million in sales during a transition like that? So that's really where we came in this success story I'm talking about. It was a private equity company of like 4 brands. We started with 1 and now we've got 2 of them, for context. So it's 2 brands at the 55 million mark, just for honesty and transparency. But they were doing like, a couple million through this reseller. We're now approaching 55 million. So, but we transitioned stock. We launched their own Seller Central. We launched product there. We started backfilling stock there. We sold out through inventory over there. We managed inventory with that partner and started educating this team on how to prep. Their warehouse was always pallet in, pallet out. They had an internal warehouse. We had to prep them, had to make a whole new department for picking orders for Amazon, prepping them, labeling them. They sell fragile stuff. So we had to really think about that as well, instead of it just sitting on a retail shelf. But a huge success in my mind. In the first year, we not only maintain the sales that they were doing before, but we grew it by like 100%, and then it's just grown exponentially since then. And that's been like, to me, that's like almost advanced. That's a very advanced type of engagement with us. But it's one that people they feel stuck in these scenarios, and what they really just need is a partner with expertise that can help them navigate all that nuance.
And I know we're right at time. I don't know if I want you to touch upon the 3PL piece. Do you have a minute?
Yeah. So,
because it's interesting. You have the service, but then you've expanded that from the 3PL side. So just talk about that piece with the company.
Yeah. So 15 years in, what I've learned is that 3PLs come and go.
And what people know what 3PLs are.
3PL is the third party logistics. Think of it as the company that's warehousing your product and shipping your website orders, or shipping your pallets out to a retail store, or prepping products for Amazon, any number of the above, tracking your inventory. A huge essential piece of any e-commerce or Amazon brand, where most of the profitability is made or lost. When you really look at a P&L sheet for a business, a lot of it is made or lost in the warehouse. And as my long-term goals are to use Marknology as kind of the digital construction crew to go out and acquire brands or build D2C brands or flip D2C brands, which is really where I'm at now and having a lot of fun. I wanted to be able to control the fulfillment piece. Small brands a lot of times will get kicked out of a big 3PL or they just won't even take you. Think about the pandemic. If you weren't in a warehouse and you're only using FBA, fulfillment by Amazon, and then all of a sudden Amazon's like essentials only, they were screwed. They couldn't find a warehouse that would pick them up and fulfill their products. So I was building this since 2019. I actually went to Boston with the Goldman Sachs program with Babson College.
I did that too. 10 KSB. Yep.
Really? Okay, cool. We're 10 KSB alumni now. And my growth initiative was the warehouse. That's kind of what I brought. And so I really got to work on it that year, which was really a blessing for me, doing a bunch of things. But the warehouse has turned into much more than that. It's not something that I'm ever intending on having a nationwide, warehouse system. We're here in the Midwest. But I'm able to try variety packs and add inserts and try 100 with this special offer inside of them. And if something's not working, I'm able to change it quickly and fastly and innovate. Like we innovated a new connection for our TikTok shop that saves us almost half a day in syncing time, which wasn't out when I started on TikTok shop. So give my team back 12 hours to fulfill. That's crazy, right? So I wanted control of that. And what's really turned into is, in addition to my own brands, we've been able to work with a lot of brands that kind of feel stuck, or sellers that feel stuck. Their warehouse has these inadequacies, or it's a huge, these relationship things are happening internally. And they're like, if I do this, if I take on this initiative, I'm going to get bark back or bite from this side of the company or this or that. And we're able to step in, kind of help them get product ready for Amazon and give them time to figure out, do they want to do that internally? Do they want to pick a different partner? Do they want to stay with us? We're Amazon. We eat, sleep, drink, smoke Amazon, that's all we do. And so like having a warehouse that's thinking of e-commerce and Amazon first, I think is absolutely pivotal for brands when they're thinking about really winning on Amazon or e-commerce.
Drew, first of all, I want to be the first one to thank you. This has been fantastic. I want to encourage people to check out marknology.com to learn more. Check out more episodes of the podcast, and we'll see everyone next time. Drew, thanks so much.
This has been amazing. Thank you, Jeremy.
Awesome.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.